Hi, good evening, everybody. I trust that you're all as well as can be in these uncertain times. My name is Liz Cox, and I'll be your moderator for this session. I am supported by a very strong technical expert in the name of Rotarian Sean, who is on hand in the background to assist me through this session. Our district governor-elect Lyle has allowed us to use his Zoom account, and we're grateful and thankful for that. And there are a number of persons who PGD Irve, who is the director of the district training committee, will recognize at the end of the program. So, welcome to our first series of 3 sessions scheduled every Wednesday from this Wednesday for the next 3 weeks. These sessions have been organized by the district training committee, which, as I mentioned, is headed by PGD Irve, PDG Irve, past District Governor Irve. The topics that were selected were based on a survey that was done in the district last year, and we selected 3 priority areas, which we will undertake have discussions on over the next 3 weeks. So thank you all for responding. We know that this was very short notice, and we were hoping actually to top 100, but we haven't because Sean had challenged us if we topped 100, he would quadruple his Rotary Foundation contribution. So perhaps next week. Sean, is the challenge still on? All right, Sean must be hearing me in the background. At this time, I know that your minds have been consumed by the global pandemic, and I trust that these sessions, while being informative, is a bit of a distraction for you. Tonight, I'm very pleased to introduce our facilitator, who is no stranger to most of you. It's past District Governor Lara. For those who have experienced her sessions, would know that she's a very captivating presenter, whose slides are equally compelling. She will be taking us through the discussion on effective fundraising, and I'm sure Lala will share with you some fun part of fundraising. As we move into the new Rotary year, we're obviously faced with many challenges in terms of fundraising. Simply selling tickets or even seeking sponsorship would be difficult. So look out for Lara's out of the box, off the wall ideas, and take copious notes, ask questions along the way. Before I hand you over to Lara, I'd like to just share with you some protocols. You will see an indicator, interpretation indicator, because the sessions are being recorded as well. I should let you know that, in French and English. And please select English so that you could be listening to the English presenter, who is Lara. The sessions are being broadcast simultaneously in French and English, and it is not that you'll be hearing the French and English at the same time, because that is happening somewhere in the background, thanks to Sean. Questions should be posted in the chat box, and these will be answered at the end of the session unless advised otherwise by our facilitator. We're not sure we'll be able to get through all the answers because we do have a large number of persons attending this first session, but we'll give it our best shot. At the end of the session, a feedback form will pop up, and we'd ask you to kindly complete that feedback form because we would like to get your views as we go forward to get a better experience, or have you have a better experience in terms of training, and let's see what more needs or things we can tweak or do to make it more comfortable for everybody else. So on that note, I'd like to hand you over to darling Lara.
So good evening, fellow Rotarians across our district. It's so wonderful to have the opportunity to spend a bit of time with you, albeit virtually, in lieu of our district conference and all the other things that have been planned for Rotary this year that have been cancelled because of the COVID virus. So first, let me thank PDG Hervé and Lyle, District Governor-elect Lyle, and the training team for inviting me to spend a bit of time with you, sharing some thoughts on fundraising. And secondly, I want to just say that I hope that everybody is doing well, that your friends and family and loved ones are safe, and hopefully none of you have been too badly affected by the virus, other than the inconvenience perhaps of having to work from home and isolate and quarantine. So it's a challenging time, as Liz said, for all of us, not just as individuals and employers and business owners and managers, but also as Rotary clubs. And even in the good times, even when there is no pandemic, fundraising is a challenge for clubs. I'm obviously very familiar with the Trinidad experience, so a lot of what I will share with you comes from my experience here in Trinidad as somebody who's done quite a lot of fundraising for my club in Port of Spain. But obviously, having traveled the district and met with many of you, and outside in our zone, clubs in the United States, in the UK, and so on, there's really a lot of great ideas out there about how we can fundraise. So I'm excited to share some thoughts with you. I welcome any comments and questions. I think most of you have my email address, and I'm pretty sure this presentation will be emailed to people afterwards. I'm sure Eve can arrange that, or we put it on the website, on the district website, so that you can access it. So welcome to everyone, and let's get started. Oh gosh, oh, here we go. Right, sorry, I'm slightly technically dyslexic. So I am going to go through 4 different areas with you today. The first is to look at setting fundraising goals, and then secondly, the communication of fundraising. And that really leads then to the third section, which is on engagement, and finally some fundraising ideas. Now, Liz talked about out-of-the-box thinking and creativity and ideas, and I have a few of those, but of course, if you have any that you've found successful in your club, in your country, really important that you share them with us as well, because it'd be great to end up with a really robust list of fundraising ideas for clubs to access. I just realized I think I need to go a bit slower for the translators. So my apologies to Vicky, who's doing our English to French translation. So, setting goals. The first thing that is really critical for any fundraising activity to be successful is that you have a very clear written goal. Your fundraising should be linked to your club's strategic plan. As you know, every club is meant to have a strategic plan, ideally for at least 3 years, if not longer, that is connected to our district strategic plan and, of course, Rotary International strategic plan. So if your plan is, as part of your strategic plan, to undertake specific projects as a club, and there is a dollar value to those projects, or euros, or whatever currency you're in, then that informs your fundraising goal. So there must be a very specific and clear goal written down and articulated to the club. The president, president-elect, president nominee should sit down and agree on the strategy, and then the fundraising goal will come out of your club strategic plan. And that will also define how the funds are to be used. I'm not going to talk today about whether a percentage of fundraising can be used for club administration. That is a separate conversation for clubs and their AGs, and we can talk about that offline. But however you decide to use the funds that you raise, it must be clearly written, must be articulated. And it's important that as a club, you have learned from your past experiences. One of the things that clubs do not do very well is document projects, create templates, and then enable future presidents and boards and fundraising chairmen to have access to them. In my own club, in my own experience, I have seen where we have done a project every single year, the same project, fundraising over and over, and yet it's as if we've never done it before. We can't find the templates. Nobody knows where the budget is. There's no planning document. There's no project document. So one of the things that certainly any of you that are outgoing presidents, current sitting presidents, about to demit office on the 1st of July, you really should spend some time. You're at home now. You've got maybe a bit more flexibility with your day than usual. Archiving all of the project templates and plans and budgets from your year. I've been muted. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was just muted there. So that you can share those with the incoming board of your club. every project, every fundraiser, every service project, every Rotaract, every Interact, they should be properly documented. One of the things we did in our club, and I'd be happy to share it with you, is a project template. It's a very straightforward Word document, very specific questions that we ask, and we try to use that for every project that we do, whether it's under whatever avenue of service. And then we document them and we store them. So if I am coming in as president-elect, I wanted to do a fundraiser that I know we had done in the past, I should be able to access those documents. So archiving and planning is really important. And then, of course, sharing that with your incoming club leaders. So writing things down, setting clear goals is a really important part of fundraising. And of course, you will set specific goals. We all know the acronym of SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic timelines. You can use that or any other acronym that you like. But it's important to have very specific fundraising goals. And they may not always be dollar value. So for example, if you look at the slide, one of the fundraising goals that's listed here is to raise 25% more than we did in the last period. So there'll be a dollar value attached to that, but that may be the focus of your efforts. So it's important to have very specific dollar values. What is the specific goal? And then you break down those goals into the tactics and the plan to achieve those goals with your timelines. You know, we have one Rotary year, 12 months from June to July 1 to June 30th, sorry. So you have 12 months to plan, but of course you're going to be planning before you take office and start to put this into your overall club calendar. One of the things that I have found very effective as a club leader is a 12-month calendar, week by week, 52 weeks of the Rotary year, putting in all your public holidays, putting in your handing over ceremony, district conference, Rotary convention, all of the different key events, and then scheduling your fundraisers in line with what you know in your country might be a really good time of year. So for example, in Trinidad, excuse me, Easter weekend is coming up. It's a long weekend normally for us. That is not a great time to do fundraisers because many people travel, they spend time with family. Also, the period between Carnival and Easter is Lent. So having fundraisers that are very alcohol driven may not be a great idea in Trinidad because we know a lot of people give up drinking for Lent. So we need to be cognizant of the calendar and plan and lay out our fundraising then. And the other thing that helps you do is not clash with other clubs. There is a perennial problem in Port of Spain where we have had occasions when 3 or even more clubs have had a fundraising or service event on the same day. We're a small island. There's 22 clubs. We should be able to share our calendars before the year begins so that we don't clash. And that enables us then to come and support each other's fundraisers. So it's important to share this information with your other club presidents and club leaders so that they can work with you so that we're not all fighting for the same venue, the same sponsors, the same public to attend the events that we're having. So planning well in advance of July 1 and budgeting with that plan, again connected to your strategic plan. And one of the things that Rotary asks us to do, and you will know this from Rotary Club Central, is that we measure all of the inputs. So what kind of human resources do you need? How many volunteers? How many volunteer hours? The financial resources, of course. And one of the things that Rotarians are very good at is in-kind donations. So maybe you need to ask for gift baskets to be donated as door prizes for your event. Working that into the plan. When do we need to start asking for that? I've also had the experience with clubs calling the week before an event, asking if I can help them get gift baskets or hampers for donations as door prizes. That should not be a last minute thing. So you need to think, this is why the plan is so important, and you have then to share it with the next incoming board so that we're not always scrambling. And certainly I've seen that in my own club, that, you know, the 2 or 3 days before the event, something we didn't think about, we didn't remember, and we're scrambling to get it done. So think about all of the different inputs into the project plan that will help you achieve the fundraising goal. So that then leads me, once you have your fundraising plan, you've broken it down into then the communication of this plan. So this may be something that the board has done, or the fundraising committee. Am I to stop? I'm hearing a question. No? Okay. And then that speaks to communication, which is the next phase of this entire exercise. So one of the challenges in many clubs, all clubs I expect, is getting everybody involved. And the important part of this, and this speaks to engagement, which I'll talk about shortly, is to let all of your members know at very early in the year, or even before 1 July, what your fundraising events are, what the goals of those events are, and what you expect of each Rotarian. So keep your members involved. We have so many ways to communicate with one another now, through WhatsApp groups, through email, through your weekly, monthly newsletter, your Facebook page. There's so many ways to constantly communicate with your members in the run-up to, during, and then after the event. So how successful was the event? And as I said earlier, keep very detailed records so that the next time you do that fundraiser, you can take that model and implement it. And of course, you will document failures, lessons learned, things that we should definitely do again, things that we definitely should not do again. And this also allows you, as part of the communication, to reach out to other clubs in your area that maybe wish to collaborate with you on the projects. The Port of Spain clubs in Trinidad for a number of years collaborated on a foundation fundraiser called Soup Fest, where all of the clubs would come together and we would have an event where members of the public would buy tickets and come and have a wide variety of soups with entertainment. And it was a wonderful event. I think one of the reasons why we don't do it anymore is because it began to crumble when the expectations of each of the clubs was not clearly articulated. So it goes back to the plan. If you're going to incorporate more than one club, you need to communicate very clearly from the beginning what is expected of each club. And that goes the same for Rotaract and the same for Interact. You need to be able to communicate very clearly, not just the vision, but expectations. If you're going to engage your Rotaractors and Interactors, which you should, of course, if you can, make them part of the process from the beginning. The Rotaractors have often complained that they just get asked to park cars or work in the bar or sell tickets, but they want to learn how to plan projects. They want to learn how to do presentations to corporate donors. So this is also an opportunity for you to develop them, their professional leadership, their professional project planning. So have a Rotaract liaison on your project team, an Interact liaison if that's feasible, and make sure they're part of the process, not an afterthought. So in communicating, you're communicating with all the different members of your Rotary family and the wider audience. So one of the things we recommend as part of your fundraising is having a communication plan. And this is particularly helpful if you are building up to an event where you really are having a large event, you want a lot of support from the public. So in that case, you will schedule with your PI chair a number of actions to build up to the event. So the example on the screen is an event from October November, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 weeks, here we go, the event is coming, only a few tickets left, so you start to build excitement. You can have something similar for your members. So you would have a plan of the months that you have leading up to the event, who needs to do what, and you're tracking that. Again, project planning, very straightforward. But the communication plan is important to let your public know that the event is coming up and this is how we are progressing through, whether it's online registration, tickets are available from Monday, don't forget you need to sign up, discount deadline is coming up if you have an early bird discount sign up special, all of those things, you have to plan it. So a communication plan for the fundraiser, it could be a 1 month, it could be 6 months, but it's important to do it and then have your PI chair, your PI team execute. In fact, we see this quite often in the newspapers. You'll see it often with organizations that are launching new products and services. There may just be a photograph in the newspaper. This time next week, watch this space, something exciting is happening. There's a lot of great visual tools that you can use. Rotary Brand Center has great tools to really build a visual communication in the run-up to your event. And of course, as part of your communication, you need to connect with the media. Ideally have a media partner who can support you with radio, television, live streaming, whatever it might be that will really build the impact of your event, but not just to come on the day, but in the weeks before. How have we engaged? How has the information about our fundraiser and our Rotary Club and our service projects added value to the media house? So as part of this, they don't just want to be invited to come to the event. Work with them in the run-up. Let them be your media partner. Give them some credit for that. And actually tell the story of your Rotary Club. So we're doing a fundraiser, but there's a purpose. And the purpose is what drives you. That's your passion. And so you build up to the event having a series of articles, radio interviews, television interviews, not just the week of the event itself, because you need to sell those last 100 tickets. So I think partnering with the media is critical. And as I mentioned, there's tons you can do on social media. We all know about that. Tweeting, Instagramming, building up. But very important for your communication is consistency. So that everything you do with your club's brand on it must be in line with Rotary's guidelines. I have seen over the years some quite horrendous tickets printed for events with the Rotary wheel used on a bikini for a boat cruise, and some other images that I won't share with you. I've tried to put them out of my mind, but clearly I know you want to sell tickets. I know you want to go for, you know, the images and get people excited about the event, but you must follow branding guidelines. We are a brand. It's very important that our brand retains its integrity. And of course, testimonials are really a powerful way of building support for your event. So the people in the community that you've helped in the past, let them be your advocates. Maybe there's a school or a hospital or another NGO even that you've partnered with that can be an advocate for your club. And this is why you should support the Rotary Club of X. This is what we've done in the community. So having not just us telling people that we're great, but the people that we serve telling people, the public, that we're great, adds a lot of power, and it personalizes the communication. So you build that into your communication strategy. You focus on the people. Effective communication, effective PI strategy is always about people. We've seen it with the COVID-19 on Facebook over the last few weeks, people locked in their homes in Italy and Spain. And it's the stories that have captured you have been about people singing on their balconies, clapping for nurses and doctors, people. So the heart of your communication is the people that are involved. Spotlight an interactor, spotlight a Rotaractor, spotlight a person in the community that you're helping. That's what the media like, and that builds then the brand of Rotary as well as the support for the event. So we then move on to engagement. So you've got your plan, you've got your communication strategy, your PI team knows exactly what they have to do when, and then we need to get our members really engaged. And this is a challenge. I know that 20% of your club does all of the work. There are members who will do nothing for an event or the bare minimum, and it is a challenge. It is not, I do not have a magic wand, but one of the things that I have found is to talk, as certainly as the president-elect or the fundraising chairman, talk to each member and ask them what they would like to contribute to this event. A mass email, hey everybody, we're having this event, I need you to sell 100 tickets, is not going to grab everyone. Some people will step up, great. But those who don't, you need to have a personal conversation. They have something that they can do. They have a strength that they can add to this. It might be very small, but what you don't want is to have any members who feel left out, who feel that they were not included because they don't do email perhaps, they're not very good on WhatsApp, and so they were totally left in the dark. So know your members well enough to know the different levels of engagement, but ask for something from everyone. Something small from some, big from others. But I really think it's important that everybody buys in. This is a club event, and we really would like everybody, even if it's a tiny contribution, to do something. And then also ask for their suggestions. You will have people in your club who have done fundraisers for years, 20 years, 40 years as Rotarians. Ask what they think might work. It may be an event that something we haven't done for 30 years as a club. Now might be a great time to bring it back. There's really a lot of heritage, if you like, or a lot of culture in our clubs, an experience that our senior members have, and we need to ask them, what did you do that was successful in fundraising? And maybe it's an event we can modernize, but we can do again. And something you need to do as a fundraising chairman, as a president, as you go through your project plan, celebrate the little wins. So put in some milestones. First person to sell 50 tickets, bottle of wine. First Facebook post to get 100 likes. Here's I don't know, a pizza for that Rotarian. There's ways you can celebrate in the build up to the event, the small wins, to keep people engaged. And of course, Rotaract as well. One thing Rotarians have is networks. We are all professionals. We have a vast network of individuals, whether it's through our businesses, through our churches, through our sporting teams. You need to leverage those networks, not just to sell tickets, but again, to get support. To give you an example, at my club, for a number of years, we had a treasure hunt, which is a car rally, and many clubs do those. And a number of our members used to go to a school in Trinidad, Fatima, that has a hockey club who one of their great skills is organizing rallies. So the Fatima Boys alumni was able to partner with the hockey boys to get our Rotary Club fundraiser, our treasure hunt, organized. They did an amazing job for a number of years. It raised their profile, and we had an excellent event. So think about people in your network, not just for donations, not just for financial support, but who have skills, experience, things that they can bring to the table. There are a lot of people who don't want to become Rotarians because they don't have the time, but actually would like to be part of a specific project for a specific period of time. So those are people you can bring on board as your project partners, whether as individuals, as organizations, and keep communicating throughout the entire process, not to flood people or overwhelm them. Have your plan, but don't stop the communication. Whether it's every Monday morning, twice a week, Sunday night, here comes the update on our fundraiser. These are the 10 points I want you to know about the fundraiser this week. Whatever it might be, keep up the momentum to all of your stakeholders, both within your Rotary Club and outside. And as I said, I do believe that every Rotarian can do something, even if it's a small contribution. So they could make some phone calls, they could bring their family to the event, they could write some letters if you need to write letters for permission from the police to sell tickets, or from your MP to come and officially open the event. Get your members engaged in something so that it truly is a club effort. Engagement also can include partnering with other NGOs. And for smaller Rotary clubs in particular, this can give you not just credibility, but also additional resources. So you could partner with the Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, another NGO. Rotary really is encouraging us to partner with other NGOs. Yes, you share the profits, but the publicity and the PR that another global NGO or even a local one can bring, that partnership really will help elevate the public appeal of the fundraiser. So maybe in your community, there's a small NGO that needs support that can be your partner. Maybe there's a large global one that really has a lot of leverage that you can tap into. So we partner, many of the clubs in Port of Spain, for example, partner with Goodwill Industries, which is a global, or certainly the United States NGO, and they have a facility that we often use for events. It's great PR for Goodwill Industries, who provide vocational training for differently abled adults, and Rotary also gets the resources and the facilities that they have. So, but again, be very clear what each partner is giving and getting. Very clear, articulated, written expectations. Otherwise, it can go horribly wrong. Bring in your interactors and Rotaractors, I've said, and ask for volunteers in your community. Maybe your next door neighbor is great at barbecuing. If you're having a barbecue, ask your next door neighbor to come and help you out for that weekend. Doesn't have to become a Rotarian, although he might, she might, if she sees how marvelous we are. But ask people that you know to come and help you. Engage the community that you're going to serve as well. If you're raising funds for a particular community, how can they be part of the event? Could the community work the bar? Could they be part of the entertainment? Again, Goodwill, as an example for us, has a steel pan orchestra. And many of the events that we have, we invite the Goodwill Steel Pan Orchestra to perform our national anthem or perform some entertainment for our public. And it really is great exposure for them, and it makes the event so much richer. So there's so many ways that you can engage different groups and individuals outside of your Rotary Club to make this a really rich and robust event. And the last thing I want to say under engagement is when it comes to corporate sponsors in particular. Many of us partner with global companies, local companies, and my experience has been that they always want to know what's in it for them. So yes, it's the right thing to do. It's a good thing for the people of our community. It's a noble cause. But for many donors, corporate donors, that's not enough. They need to understand what brand recognition they're going to get. How is their brand going to be featured, leveraged? So from the very beginning, and this is part of your communication strategy as well, you need to understand the expectations of your partners in terms of their brand. So my experience in fundraising has been very often connected to my Rotary Club's Model UN, which some of you may be familiar with. We approach global and local donors every year for funding. And the requirements that they give us, I might get $20,000 TT dollars from a company, and they then send me a list of things that I have to do with their brand and what they want on the day of the event and what they want in the run up to the event. They want their logo here in this color, on these t-shirts, whatever it is. You need to have those conversations, because if you don't give them the recognition that they want for the value of the donation, obviously it's relative, then you will find that they become very disillusioned very quickly because they have many people asking them for money. So one of the things that you can build as part of your fundraising package is sponsorship packages for different types of sponsor. So if we have a $10,000 sponsor, they may get mentioned on Facebook 10 times. They get a banner at the event. We do a feature on them in our weekly newsletter. For $30,000, the sponsor gets additional. And you can build packages like that. That has worked very well in Trinidad. So I think it may work well in other parts of the Caribbean as well. And one of the things that our sponsors have now asked for as part of our fundraising appeal when we go for sponsor funding is sustainability, which of course we know is part of our grant dialogue now anyway. So it's a good conversation for Rotary clubs to be having. If I give you $25,000, you put it into this fundraiser or it goes into this project, what is the sustainability, the long-term impact of this project? You have to be able to talk in the language of sustainability as part of your fundraising. So getting into that mindset, what do our sponsors want? What do our partners want? Is really critical. And then at the end of the event, when it's completed, ask for their feedback. Go and meet with them. We've had the event 2 weeks ago. It was a success. How did you feel your brand was supported? How do you feel that your brand was recognized? Was it enough? Was it not enough? What could we have done differently? Because you don't want to lose that connection. Corporate sponsors are very precious and rare. So if you have them, you need to build, and that's the communication, the engagement with those particular stakeholders over time. So you don't just every year, once a year, send them a letter begging for money. In between fundraisers, how are we engaging them? Let them come and speak at your Rotary Club about what they do, their products, their services. Give them a spot on your Facebook Live to interview their CEO about their new initiative, whatever it takes to keep them engaged. Okay? And then finally, I have some ideas to share with you. And I guess when we've done with these, we can take some questions. And these are some fundraisers that we've done, clubs have done globally, not just Rotary clubs, of course. So one of the things that's important to understand about fundraising is that some of the most successful fundraising events are competitions. And this is based on studies that have been done with NGOs, not just Rotary clubs, all around the world. They are generally quite easy to organize. They generally don't require a lot of investment, but they do have a high return. So in Trinidad, what we've seen many clubs, NGOs, even the banks do, are fun runs, walkathons, marathons. So you're getting fit, it's healthy, it's outdoors, it's a lovely family event, people bring their kids, their dogs, but it's also a great fundraiser. And there are often competitive runners or walkers in these events. So think about on your fundraising calendar, one competitive event. A sports day is a great idea as well, especially for young people. But maybe you do an old people's sports day. That would be brilliant. Have a cook-off. For those of you who don't know what that is, we do those in Trinidad, and I'm sure in other countries, where you have teams of people who will all cook the same dish, whether it's a curry or a stew or something like that, and then the dishes are judged. So each team dresses up in costumes. You can draw teams from the community. It's not only Rotary teams, and have them judged, and there are prizes and trophies for the best tasting meal. That's a great activity. It can be done very inexpensively, but that element of competition is what people enjoy. So the teams pay to participate. Members of the public may pay a small fee to come and see their mum, their dad, their boss participate in the event. I talked about the treasure hunt. It was a lovely, very successful event for us. Golf tournaments, a lot of clubs have golf tournaments. Those seem to be very profitable. So a competitive event, I think you should have at least one on your calendar. And I put an auction here. I don't know if any clubs in our district have done auctions. I'm sure there probably are. But I do remember many years ago, not even in Rotary, that when I was actually at university, we did a charity auction where we invited people, celebrities, to donate items. So if it was in the Caribbean, maybe you invite a famous, maybe if you're in Barbados, you invite Rihanna to donate a signed autograph, or you invite somebody that in your community is a celebrity to donate a shirt that they wore when they won the World Cup, or whatever it might be. And you then auction those items for charity. But there's competitive bidding. Those can be very, very lucrative as fundraisers. If you have enough celebrities and you build as your communication plan. Today we got the t-shirt from Brian Lara that he wore when he beat he beat England in the Ashes. I don't know much about cricket. I apologize, Ken. But I think that there are opportunities in the region for us to build auctions, charity auctions. But the fundamental idea behind this type of fundraiser is that there's a competitive element. People enjoy that. It raises spirits, the community gets involved. It's really a lot of fun. So community type events, again, based on some of the studies that I've read, when you focus more on giving the community an experience over and above what the dollar value of the event is going to be, the dollars behind it. So have a community event in the community that you're trying to help, perhaps. People respond well. And I think after COVID-19, when all of this is over in May, in June, whenever we see the end of the tunnel, if you could sweep in with a community event to celebrate the end of COVID with some great food and sports day and trophies or whatever it is, a great band, have a concert, but for people in the community to come together, I think that would be a real winner. Because I think certainly for Trinis, and I'm sure all the Rotarians I know, the minute we're allowed out of our houses again, we're going to want to congregate. So there's a window of opportunity here for our clubs, even if it's on a small scale, to have a post-COVID, post-apocalyptic get-together, feel-good reggae night or a barbecue night or something where we're going to make a bit of money, but it's really about the community. And I think Rotary should be at the heart of that and bring 2 or 3 clubs together in your community, have something in the local square, have something in the local sports field. I think people will really respond to that, especially children and families, mums and dads who've been all squished up in the house together. So think about a community event. The next thing I wanted to share with you, and I have a lot of experience with this, so if any clubs are particularly interested in this, I'd be very happy to chat with you online via email afterwards on another day, is have a look at foundations. If you Google charitable foundations, there are literally dozens, and I just put a photo of the Wikipedia page here. I have had a lot of success accessing foundations around the world to get money for our youth projects here at the Rotary Club of Central Port of Spain in Trinidad. Sometimes it's very difficult, the application process. Sometimes it's very easy. They do vary wildly. The United Nations is a great place for any clubs that are doing, for example, environmental projects. The UNDP, the UN Development Programme, has funding available for grants for environmental projects. So you don't always have to sell tickets to raise money, is what I'm getting at. There are foundations out there that have money that they would like to put into projects. But what you must understand, and I have spent hours just clicking on every link, reading what does the foundation do, what is their focus. Many of them will only give money, for example, to projects in Africa. Many of them will only give projects in the United States. Okay, moving on. But some of them do give money in developing world, in the Caribbean, for youth projects, women health projects, HIV/AIDS projects, you name it. You really have to do your work, do your research, but they're out there. So a couple that I have been successful with over the years, the Commonwealth Foundation, for any of the clubs that are in countries that were formerly British colonies, the Commonwealth Foundation, the US government, if you have a US embassy in your country, they have funds as well for programs. We have partnered with the US Embassy in Trinidad, and we get $10,000 US a year for our Model UN. And we've had that now for the last 5 years, I think. And I'm hearing somebody. Did you want to ask a question? No? Okay. So yeah, the US government, or if you're in a European country aligned more with the EU, maybe the EU has funding. There are so many foundations out there. And just to give you a recent example of one that I stumbled upon, I don't know if you have this in the French-speaking countries, but we have in insurance sector what is called the $1 Million Roundtable. So this is for insurance sales reps who have, Liz would know about this, who have reached a certain level of sales in a particular year, and they get rewarded by this, a global movement that celebrates outstanding achievement in insurance. It's called the $1 Million Roundtable, MDRT. MDRT has a foundation. I didn't know that. I Googled them, I found them. You have to apply and you have to be endorsed by an MDRT member. I have one in my club. Bing, bong, bang. I got 5,000 US yesterday from them for our Model UN. So the money's out there. You just have to be a little creative, do a bit of legwork. And the other thing to think about is, especially if it's the UN or the US government, which is taxpayers' money, there's a lot of forms to fill in. So you will need to develop some expertise. Maybe there's somebody in your club, again, maybe an older member who isn't quite as active selling tickets, but is really good at filling in forms, writing reports. That may be a strength that you can really leverage. The stewardship of the funds is critical. When we got money from the UNDP, we had to provide receipts for every single thing. But this is really good training for those of you that get grants from Rotary. So it's easy to do. It just requires a certain mental acuity and methodical approach, and speak their language. If they're talking about alleviation of poverty through human rights education, use that language in your application. Speak their language. Don't always use your own words. Use their words to connect what you're doing with what they want to support. So I've had a lot of success with this, and I'd be happy to talk offline with anybody else about that. Of course, you need to apply for Rotary grants, and I know Milton will be talking to you a bit more about this on the 15th. Both district and global grants are available. Some of you would have already accessed them. Who just scratched that off with a big red line? So is that my sign that I have to wrap up? I don't even know what the time is. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I think I'm running a bit out of time. So go to the webinar on the 15th with PDG Milton. We will be sending out the grants forms, the documents for the new Rotary year pretty soon. We're just getting them translated. So you have the opportunity to apply for Rotary grants, of course. And my final thought with regards to being a bit creative on fundraising is online fundraisers. We're all using technology now more than we do normally. There are so many great websites that give you ideas about how to raise money online globally. So it may be something where you're asking people to sponsor a particular event, or it may be just something like GoFundMe. This particular website, CauseVox, has some ideas, but there are tons. You build an event online. If you got, you know, $1 US from 1,000 people, that's $1,000 US. That could be helpful. So you really need to break your fundraising down, I suggest, in your 12 months, a community event. Maybe that's the same as your competitive event. You do maybe an online fundraiser, and then your grants application, both Rotary and otherwise. One of the things I think, and you may have a signature event that you want to do. So you have a barbecue, you have an event on the beach, all of those things are great. but we seem to spend so much time selling tickets. And I think for Rotary, certainly even in my club, we have struggled. We have one event, we're trying to sell 500 tickets, and then 2 months later, we have another event, and we're trying to sell another 500 tickets. And it's very hard in this economy. COVID-19, oil prices are down, people have lost their jobs. It's going to be hard to sell tickets. So you may still have one event that you know is a winner and people will support, but you need to now think a little bit creatively about how your club can raise money for your projects. So I hope that what I've shared with you has been useful. As I said, I'm very happy to speak with anybody else about how I can share some of my experiences. Here's a couple of websites that you can go and visit for some fundraising ideas, some quick events you can do, just a short event, some of them are bigger, salsalabs.com and classy.org. This is just a couple that I Googled. There's a ton out there. So do some research, be creative. Go to your club and say, look, here are 50 ideas. Let's put them in a hat. Tell me which ones do you like? Okay, we don't want those. Here's something we've never thought about doing before. Fundraising can be a lot of fun. It can be a lot of work. But if you are creative and you come up with really exciting ideas, I think you'll engage your members, which is really what you want. You'll engage your community. But remember, just to go back to the beginning, it's super important to plan, connect this to your project goals, your district and club strategic plan, communicate with your members, your public, the media, engage people, and be creative. So that's it for me. I hope that was helpful. Thank you all for listening, those of you that are still there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Lara. What I would first like is to let Sean know that we made the 100, so he owes the foundation some bit of money. We made the 100. It's down to 98 now, but we did make the 100. We did hit the target 100. Now, your presentation, I think, was extremely informative. I think some of the points and pointers that you've made, I think a lot of clubs, one particular one that has stood out for me is the engagement, because I think a lot of times club members or a group of individuals or perhaps 1 or 2 persons get together and plan an event and then sends out an email for laborers. I call them laborers coming in at the end, turning up at 10 o'clock and could you come to help? And I think that is where we lose engagement because they're not involved from the inception. So yeah. That's key in terms of creating that communication strategy so that everybody will be involved from day one on the project.
Yeah, and I think just to add, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, it's fine.
I was just going to say, to add to that, and I agree with you, what you can also do after the event is, as I said, with your sponsors, ask for feedback. Go to your members, do a feedback form, sit with a few of your members. What was good? What was bad? What should we do differently? We have to be willing to learn and evolve. Otherwise, our events can get very stale very fast.
Yeah. All right, we do have a couple of questions, not a lot of questions. It must have been that your presentation was lucidly clear.
or everybody fell asleep, either one.
Well, it's a lot of persons, but we do have a question from Abraham from Trinidad, and he was asking whether it's a good idea to have the president-elect be the fundraising chair for your club. I believe this differs from club to club, but perhaps your answer, Lara.
Well, thank you for that, Abraham. Certainly in my club, that is our practice. And the reason for that is that when you are serving as president-elect, you undertake fundraising to support projects in your year. So it kind of is logical that the fundraising chairman is raising money for their year, but it's entirely up to the club. You could have, I don't see any reason why you couldn't have a fundraising chairman for 5 years, the same person who's fantastic at it. And then every 5 years you rotate fundraising chairman, or, you know, you build it as a specific job in the club. But our practice has been that the president-elect, it's important, as I said at the beginning, that the sitting president, president-elect, president nominee agree on a fundraising plan in line with your strategic plan. But maybe if you wanted to have maybe there are people in your club who don't want to be on the board, but they're really good fundraisers. let them be the fundraising chairman. I don't see any reason why they can't be, as long as they report to the board and provide the stewardship and so on that you're looking for. I think it's really up to the club what works best for you.
Absolutely, because in our club, we do have our vice president, who is like the president nominee, is usually the
Right.
fundraising person. So it differs from club to club, but you need to have someone driving that process.
Absolutely.
So we have another question from Abraham, and he's asking, how much risk should a club take in terms of using their funds as seed money for fundraisers?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it will depend on, obviously you're doing a budget for every event. It will depend on the expected outcome. You have to be mindful of the context. So I'm sure I know my club, we had 2 fundraisers planned. We had the Model UN and we had a fundraiser planned during this period. Of course, we've had to cancel them. But we have done the events often enough to know that we more than recoup what we put in. So we've had experience, we've had budgets, we understand for every dollar I put in, I get $2 back. But if it's a new project, you may not be that familiar with it. So you may need to, I would always suggest that you keep your input, your club's financial input at a minimum. But I can't speak, if it's a really huge event, you're expecting to make $100,000, then you put it in your budget. The club will put 20,000 in, but we get it back because we're going to be reimbursed at the end of the event. Once you're confident you can get the support. Or what we do with the Model UN, for example, is my club pledges money to support the Model UN, but I raise the money. The project costs us about 50,000 US, and I raise that from sponsors and foundations. And if I fall short, the club will put in up to 60,000, but some years they haven't had to, because I've managed to raise all of it. So you could have it as a pledge, just so that the event can still happen, but really the goal would be to try and get it through your sponsors and partners.
Hello, and I have a question here from Lathan. He just posted a question, and he's wondering whether clubs are able to retain a small portion of funds raised to cover any admin expenses, say 5%. I believe this was discussed at a district conference at some point in time, but perhaps Lara,
Okay.
could you?
So yeah, I did actually mention this at the very beginning of my presentation, only to say that, and I know DGE Lyle has very strong views on this. In fact, many of the governors do. In my club, it is our practice to put in our budget a percentage of the revenue, because again, we're not profit, so we don't call it profit, we would call it surplus, I suppose, surplus. We put a percentage back into our club, but not every club agrees with that. Not every governor agrees with that. The clubs are autonomous. There is nothing in Rotary that says you can or you cannot. You have to be guided by your conscience. What is the culture of your club? What is the culture of the people that you are inviting to this event, selling tickets to? One of the things that we do is that we will put on the ticket for an event, if it's a ticketed event, that part proceeds. So the word part implies that not 100%, if I raise $100, I'm going to give $20 to my club, $80 to the community, but I've told the stakeholders that. They know that. They've seen my budget. But it depends. There are some events where you need to raise $100 to buy a wheelchair. 100% of that $100 is going to that wheelchair. So it may change from event to event. I personally, my personal philosophy, and this is not a district position, is that I think it's okay once you're fully transparent with your stakeholders. So to give you an example, the Model UN that I refer to, because that's my main fundraising experience, we have a budget every year. We have an administrative line item. The sponsors get a copy of the budget. I have the receipt. It's in there. It's clear. We're not hiding it from anyone. But there are many Rotarians who do not believe that this should be done, that if you want to raise money for your club administration, you should have separate events for Rotarians only, relatives, family, friends, and that's fine too. So I'm not passing judgment on any club that chooses whichever model works for them, but in my club, we do it.
All right, thank you for that response.
I probably
I
made
think
it
that's,
clear.
yeah, I think that's about the amount of questions we can take. As PG Lara mentioned, you can always email her and you know, discuss with her any other areas that you need clarity on. But I would certainly like to underscore what she said. RI website has a lot of information, and even the Rotarian magazine does publish things that other clubs are doing that we can actually steal ideas and, you know, create something unique for our club. At this point, Lara, I must say thank you, but I'd like to hand over to PDG Irvey, who is the one that will conclude the session.
Thank you, Leslie.
Irvey.
Be a little bit louder, Hervé, but turn up your volume.
Okay, I'm not even hearing him.
It's a little blurry, but yes.
You guys are hearing Hervé?
No, we're not hearing him.
Hervé, we're not hearing you.
No, I can't hear you, Hervé.
I'm not certain what is happening, but I think something went wrong technically. I believe Sean might be in the background trying to figure it out. But we're not hearing Hervé. But I guess I'll have to do what he was supposed to do. And that is to say thank you to Lara for taking the time. I know we grabbed you at short notice, and you willingly agreed and accepted, and as usual, compelling, captivating presentation. To all the participants, thank you so much. We won the challenge of 100 participants, at least to start with. From Sean, he has to pay up. And thank you to District Governor-elect Lyle for utilizing his platform. I'd like to say also a big thank you, huge thank you to Sean, and a huge hug for him to working really hard to make this happen, especially the English-French translation. I think we tested it and it worked very well. And so we were able to have both audiences running at the same time. We had some interpreters, Vicky and Natalie, who willingly again agreed to convert the slides and to be the translators from English to French and French to English. Hervé was in fact a translator as well, but I'm not certain what's happened with him. So on that note, thanks again, Lara. And before you guys leave, please remember to fill out that form, the survey form, so that we can get an idea of how we can plan or whether we need to tweak what we need to do going forward so that we'll create a better experience for you all. Hervé, are you hearing me? Hervé is gone. He's not hearing me. So on that note, I'd like to again thank everybody for coming, and thank you again, Lara. Milton, I'm seeing you. We have you up late. We have you up rather late. But so thank you, Sean. Anything else? Did I? Oh, Sammy finally got in because people dropped out.
Hervé is on, but he's not hearing us apparently. You see him weaving, but he's not hearing us.
Well, we checked it today, and we. Okay, I like to end the meeting on that note, and just to let you know, next week we're having PDG David, and he will address us on membership, engagement, recruitment, and the following week we will have PDG Milton, who will talk to us on grants, application for grants, both district grants as well as global grants. And I think that was one of the top areas, I must tell you, Milton, when we asked in terms of what the needs were, was grants application. And I guess you would know, as a former foundation director, is that you don't have a lot of applications coming through the district. I guess there's some fear factor, but I'm sure you'll be able to allay a lot of fears in your presentation. So thank you all. I'd like to close off at this time. Bye, everybody.